And sadness is something nobody's got time for. So as long as I stay busy, I'm going to stay out in front of that emotion. If I stop, then that emotion settles on me like a cloud. And I don't like that feeling, so I'm just going to keep in motion. How many people have left hip issues? There's usually a lot less. What I find is that there tends to be more right. So what I found with the left hip is that this is more of a sort of frustrated non-doing. This is the things we want to be doing or being or having, but we're not. We're not in alignment. Our actions are not in alignment with our desires. And so we're frustrated over our unmet needs. And that pattern very often goes back to infancy. You know, one of the very curious patterns that I've observed doing this work is what I call the baby boomer pattern. Who's baby boomer? Yeah. But baby boomers all kind of have the same set of problems. And what's so bizarre, and I never would have believed this if I hadn't seen it myself, is that prior to, after World War II, most babies were nursed. And after the war, it became fashionable to bottle feed babies. Not only give them bottles, but give them bottles on a schedule. And so here are infants instinctually craving and desiring and asking for a boob, skin-to-skin contact, mom's heartbeat, and all of the nutrition that comes from breast milk. And instead, they were given a bottle on a schedule. And so this process of, one, being addicted to sugar, because formula was so sweet, and two, being sort of chronically frustrated over unmet needs, being chronically unsatiated, becomes a lifetime habit. And that combines with this, I'm crying and I'm saying what my needs are, but nobody's listening or responding. So it doesn't matter what I say, I'm not getting my needs met. And then, because mom was, I know in the States after World War II, there was a lot of drinking going on, and Valium and, booze and cigarettes and sort of emotional disconnection. There was a lot of PTSD, but it wasn't recognized as such. So these children are growing up in these sterile, unloving, cold, distant households. So they're not bonding with their mother. They're not getting their needs met. And so there forms a belief that there must be something wrong with me, that I'm bad, that I'm not good enough. And so since my needs aren't going to get met, then I'm just going to over-occupy myself making sure everybody else's needs get met. And I'm going to just forget about my own. And so baby boomers have ended up sort of trapped in all of these patterns of mind that go all the way back to infancy. And thinking that it's your fault somehow, that you are such a mess like this. And in seeing this pattern over and over again, it made me really understand why baby boomers have driven the self-help movement. The self-help movement is really all about, I'm broken, there's something wrong with me, and I need to be fixed. The fact of the matter is that there's nothing wrong with any of you. You just had really bad inputs. And we're really like computers, and we get programmed with all of this software, and all of these beliefs, and all of these stories. And we think that these programs are who we are. And it's very difficult to change, there's a whole story in the New Age community about change your thinking, change your life. But that only works to a small degree, because what's really largely going on doesn't have anything to do with your thoughts, and everything to do with your emotions. And we don't grow up with any kind of modeling about how to successfully manage our emotions. Did anybody grow up in a house where their parents modeled that for them? How about successful problem solving? Did your parents model that for you, right? Especially in a relationship? No. So we've just gotten a lot of garbage. We got garbage out of a bottle. We got garbage about emotions. And these days music, so much out there is just garbage. It's just been programmed with a lot of garbage and a lot of religion that tells us that we are guilty sinners who have fallen from grace, and we've been cast out of the garden, and now we need to suffer. Now, I was raised in a non-religious home and went through that period of atheism that many teenagers do. And when I first started working on people and getting the noise out of their signal, what emerged in everyone that I worked on was a perfect harmony. Not only was it pleasing to the ear, but when I looked at people, I saw this rainbow body of light that was perfect. And I'd come home after doing a few sessions, and I'd tell my husband about who I'd worked on and what I'd seen, and then I was in with, and this person was great. They were amazing. Like, once I was getting that noise out of the signal, everyone emerged as this amazing being. And my husband said to me one day, he's like, "What, is everybody great?" And I was like, "Yeah, everybody's great. Everybody's amazing." And I don't know how many years it took. I think it took like 10 years before it dawned on me that I must be too. And that's a really hard thought to hold, right? Just think to yourself, I'm great, I'm amazing, and see how that sits with you. It usually doesn't sit very well. Why? We've got cognitive dissonance around that. And I really struggled to understand, like, why do I have such cognitive dissonance around seeing this inherent harmony and this inherent beauty in everybody? And I realized that even though I wasn't raised with any religion, I had still somehow been implanted with the belief that I was a guilty sinner and that I had fallen from grace, and that basically as a human I sucked. And then I was seeing evidence that showed me that that wasn't true at all, that was just a story, and that the truth was something far more wonderful and magnificent. And what I really started to observe as the years went by was that every single dysfunction that people showed up in my office with was really, at the very core, there was a kernel of a story of not being worthy. And when we don't feel worthy, we block energy. We resist. And this was what I was finding in the field. As I was exploring the field, these areas where my tuning fork would pass through and it would feel sticky and it would feel like resistance and it would feel like it had mass and there was chaos there. That was a resistance to life, to self. It was a judgment about an emotion. Oh, I'm spiritual, I don't get angry. Meanwhile, I have an uncontrollable sugar addiction. And all this anger kind of piled up in here. Most of us have this tendency to do what I call stuff and blow. And that's, somebody does something that makes you angry, that crosses a boundary, but you don't get angry, you just eat some sugar or drink some wine instead. Chocolate helps a lot. But then you can only take so much of stuffing until finally somebody does something that makes you so angry that you blow. And you blow with a disproportionate amount of charge than is appropriate for that particular encounter. And so whenever you put out charge, you tend to get back charge. And so it becomes confrontational. And then you form this belief of, I can't speak my truth because it turns into a confrontation and I don't like that. So I'm just going to keep stuffing and stuffing and stuffing until I can't stuff anymore, and then I blow. My mom was great. Wow. When she blew, she was like Vesuvius, and I never knew it was going to be flying around the house. And the rest of the week, there was wine. I remember seeing my parents have the same fights over and over again, being like, why didn't you solve the problem? It just didn't. It was just wine. We had a very fully stocked bar. And it worked for the most part. So this idea that ultimately the foundation of who we are is without sin. That's the truth. I want everybody to repeat after me and just see how this sits in you and just see what you notice. My body is without sin.
My body is without sin.
So we're going to take a big breath. Okay, what did anybody notice? Give me some feedback. What did you notice when you said that? What came up in your body? Anybody? Relief. Great. Finally. Good. And what else? Anybody have discomfort?
Lies.
Yeah.
Lies, yeah.
He felt sick. Yeah, and that, that's telling you that there are all these places in your body where you are seeing yourself as a sinner. And that's lies. That all that is a story. Because what is distortion is just, it's noise in our signal. And what does sound do, coherent sound? But gives the body this wonderful opportunity to use that coherent input to find its own coherence. And that's really ultimately what we do in biofield tuning with the tuning forks, is we find these areas in the field of noise in the signal. And we stay there, and that noise in the signal might be a belief about ourselves in some way that we formed, and very often these beliefs are formed under the age of 3. Go through our lives believing them. It might be something that you inherited. So I talk about a concept that I call energenetics. So most of us are familiar with epigenetics. Who's familiar with epigenetics? Bruce Lipton. So epigenetics is the idea that our experiences in life influence our gene expression, and that that gene expression then gets carried on down the line. And it's looking at it really from sort of a chemical mechanical perspective of DNA. And what I found working with sound is it's moved me into, from a chemical mechanical perspective, to what I call an electrosonic perspective, where we're looking at things more for what they really are, from the wave form rather than the particle. And so our DNA in this perspective is really more of a song. And it's a song that we inherit. And so one of the features of the biofield anatomy is what I call the ancestral rivers. And I'll just draw this for you really quickly.